Hi friends, have you planted your carrots yet? Are you tired of tiny carrots or three-legged carrots? I'm Sherry and this is Gardening in the North, and I've got 5 tips to share with you for an amazing carrot harvest. Tip number 1, when to plant your carrot seeds. I normally plant my seeds 2 to 4 weeks before my last frost date. If you don't know what your last frost date is, you can simply go on your search engine, type in what is my last frost date, and put the area in which you live in, and it will populate the date for you. You want to avoid planting your carrot seeds in the summer. First off, they may not germinate as quick as you want them to, and from my experience, they have been harder instead of crisp, and they've been bitter instead of sweet. Tip number 2 is your soil. You really want to make sure that your soil is light and fluffy. You want to make sure that you're removing any obstacles for those carrots to grow, like rocks, because if you don't have light and fluffy soil, or you have rocks throughout your soil, you're going to get those three-legged, ugly looking carrots. So today I am going to be adding 2 things to my soil for the carrots in order to make it nice, light and fluffy. One is sand. I had an extra bag of sand left over from making a dust bath for my chickens. So I'm going to add that. And 2, I'm going to add some potting soil. Now, this is a new bed. It has fresh compost in it. And I think adding these 2 things to this compost is going to make it the ideal growing space for my carrots. Keeping in mind that there are 2 things to think about. One is that the sand is not going to help water retention in this soil because it is basically powdered down rocks. The second thing is that because I'm adding sand, I'm not actually adding nutrients to the soil. However, like I mentioned, I'm adding the potting soil, and this compost is newly added to the bed. So I think this is going to make this bed perfect. Tip number 3 is how you're planting your carrot seeds. So carrot seeds do not like to be planted in the soil, but rather on top of the soil. Now, this is where an experiment is going to take place in this video. So I have carrot seeds like you normally would have. I have a whole bunch of different kinds, Danvers, Purple Dragon, Chinatle, I think is how you pronounce it, Uzbek, Golden. So I have, oh, and then I'm not even going to get that one right. So I have a whole bunch of carrot seeds here that I am going to plant in rows. I'm going to press them down into the soil. I'm going to water them. And then I'm going to cover them with either some cardboard or a board. I need to find something on our property here that I can use. The other way, or the other thing that I'm going to be doing, is planting these pre-germinated seeds. So what I did is I took some moistened soil and I put it on this plate here. And then I sprinkled the seeds on it. I stuck it in my freezer for about 48 hours, pulled them out on a day where I was doing laundry, and stuck them on top of my dryer. So I have a stackable. Stuck them up on the dryer so that nobody would move them. They wouldn't even know they were there, and left them there for about 4 days. And they have germinated. So I don't know if you can see that. Oh, there goes my bag. Okay. So what I'm going to do with these is I'm going to sprinkle them down the row like I normally would with seeds, except because they're already germinated, all I'm going to do is lightly press them into the soil. I'm going to water them as well, and I'm not going to cover them. Now, the purpose of doing this is, one, let's say you want to plant your carrots, it's time to plant them, but you just don't have the time, or the weather isn't, you do have the time, but the weather isn't very nice outside, and so the last thing you want to be doing is running outside to plant seeds of any sort. You can start them inside, knowing that within a week you can then go outside and plant them. The other thing is if you're running short on time and you're getting really close to that last frost date, you can use this method to get ahead of the game. So I'm going to plant these beside the seeds, and at the end of my growing season, I want to pull out seeds or carrots from both, planted by the regular seeds, not germinated, as well as these pre-germinated seeds, to see which carrots are bigger. So let's get planting. Tip number 4, fertilizing your carrots. I typically fertilize them 3 times a year, so I kind of use the growth method. When they get to about 4 inches, I fertilize around the carrots, not actually on the carrots, very similar to how you would fertilize onions. I then wait until they're approximately 8 inches and I fertilize again, and then at around 12 or maybe a couple weeks before I'm going to actually harvest. And so you want to make sure you're not using a fertilizer that is high in nitrogen, because yes, you will get beautiful greens growing from those carrots, but you will not get the size of carrots that you want. You really want to make sure that you're using a fertilizer that is high in potassium and phosphate in order to grow that root vegetable as opposed to just the greens. Tip number 5, it's kind of 2 tips mixed into one. So the first part of that is companion planting. You want to make sure that you are planting your carrots with their friends. And so there are so many things that you can plant carrots with. But when you are looking at their companion planting friends, keep in mind the greenery that other plants will have. And so because you're planting your carrots out earlier than a lot of the other vegetables that you grow, the greenery will already be fairly big by the time you plant other things. And so you want to try to plant things around your carrots that are going to keep the soil cool. So things like brassicas or even peppers, because they're going to get fairly bushy and they're going to keep the ground that the carrots are growing in nice and cool. So the second part of tip number 5 is thinning. You want to make sure you're thinning. Now, you don't want to go around and start pulling out the ones that you don't want. That's just going to disrupt the ground or the soil that the carrots you're leaving in the soil are trying to grow in. So what you want to do is come along with a pair of scissors or something similar to that, and you just want to cut the tops off of all the carrots you don't want. Now you want to leave about 2 inches in between each carrot so that they have enough space to grow nice and big. Thanks for spending your time with me, and have a great day.